I asked AI to predict when the government shutdown would end, and it kind of overestimated the people in power. According to ChatGPT, the shutdown was supposed to be over by November 3rd, but instead it turned into the longest one in US history. But honestly, that makes it even better, because today we're going to let ChatGPT explain itself and give it one more shot to predict the exact date that this thing finally is over. Here's the plan. I'm going to ask ChatGPT why it thinks it got the first prediction wrong, what's going on right now, how much money the US has lost so far, and who it thinks should finally give in. Then by the end, we'll see if it can nail down a new prediction for when the shutdown is actually going to be over. Before we get into all of that, though, do me a favor, hit that like button if you enjoy videos like this, subscribe so you don't miss out on what's coming next, and share this video to help it reach more people. Any of those would really help the channel. So, do at least one of them before we get into the chat. These days, it's hard to even scroll through the news without feeling pulled in 10 different directions. Every outlet's got its own spin. One says it's the end of the world. Another calls it a victory. And you're just trying to figure out what's actually true. That's where today's sponsor, Ground News, really stands out. Ground News doesn't just throw headlines at you. It actually shows how different media outlets are covering the exact same story. Take the recent news around the shutdown. More than 200 outlets are reporting on it. Left-leaning media are emphasizing shortages under the Trump administration, while right-leaning outlets portray Trump's team as being forced into these potential closures and blame Democrats for the impasse. With Ground News, you see that split instantly, and you get bias ratings, transparency scores, and reliability levels for every source. And on that story, 91% of the sources were rated as highly factual. And their blind spot feature is brilliant. It shows you stories that one side of the media mostly ignores, and that's how you stay ahead of the noise. So if you want to stop being spun and actually see the full picture, go to groundnews.com/AII or scan the QR code on your screen. You'll get 40% off the Unlimited Vantage plan, which is just $5 a month, but only with that link. Once again, that's groundnews.com/AI. The link's in the description and the pinned comment. Huge thanks to Ground News for supporting the channel. And now, let's get back to the video. All right, here we are. First things first, ChatGPT needs to pull together all the latest on the shutdown so that it's fully up to date. And once that's done, I'll ask the first question. Okay, it's ready. Now, it has to be clear, straightforward, totally unbiased. Just call things as they are, with no sugarcoating fluff or any of that, and it has to give its own take on everything that I ask. So ChatGPT, you remember that you actually predicted the shutdown would end by November 3rd, right? Well, today's November 5th, and it's still going on. So why do you think that you got that prediction wrong? And tell us what's happening now, how bad things have gotten, and how much damage it's already done to the US. Let's see what it says. Yeah, I'll admit it. I missed that one. I said the shutdown would likely end by November 3rd because based on the political tone 2 weeks ago, both sides were signaling exhaustion and pressure was building from business groups and federal workers. Normally, when paychecks are missed and polls start tanking, that's when politicians blink. But this time, neither side blinked. The White House dug in, the House Freedom Caucus doubled down, and the Senate couldn't bridge the gap. So yeah, I was wrong. The main reason this one hasn't ended is simple. Trump believes it's politically beneficial to stand firm. He's framing the shutdown as proof he's serious about cutting waste and forcing Congress to pass his full budget package. Democrats, on the other hand, refuse to hand him that victory because they see it as rewarding what's basically political hostage-taking. So it's become a symbolic war, not a policy negotiation. Both sides are thinking about headlines and voter optics, not the real-world fallout. And that fallout is brutal. By now, around 750,000 federal employees are either furloughed or working without pay. We're talking about people who inspect food, manage air traffic, process passports, issue small business loans, and handle everything from Medicare appeals to environmental safety checks. The ripple effects are everywhere. delays at airports, trash piling up in national parks, farmers missing payments, federal courts postponing cases. This isn't minimal impact. It's a slow motion breakdown of essential systems people take for granted. Financially, the numbers are ugly and all over the place, depending on who you ask. The White House's own Council of Economic Advisors estimated early on that each week of shutdown costs roughly $15 billion in lost economic activity. The Congressional Budget Office went away more conservative, saying the permanent damage, meaning the GDP loss that won't be recovered even after it's over, would be around $7 billion to $14 billion depending on how long it drags on. But that's just the official part. The actual cost, counting unpaid contracts, stalled grants, lost consumer spending, and the economic drag on small towns near big federal facilities, is almost certainly higher. If you take that $15 billion per week figure seriously, we're already about $70 billion plus in total economic disruption after 5 weeks. On top of that, America's global image is taking another hit. Investors hate uncertainty, and foreign governments are watching a superpower that literally can't fund its own government for over a month. It's embarrassing, and it reinforces the idea that Washington has become completely dysfunctional. Allies are starting to question America's reliability, and not just militarily or diplomatically, but economically. It's hard to preach fiscal responsibility or stability abroad when your own workers are lining up at food banks because Congress can't pass a budget. The longer this goes on, the deeper the damage gets. Agencies are losing talent. Good people who've had enough are quitting government work altogether. Programs that help veterans, seniors, and low-income families are hanging by threads. Even the private sector is starting to feel it, with banks reporting reduced spending and some states scrambling to fund essential services normally backed by federal money. The irony is that while both parties claim they're standing on principle, the only real losers are regular Americans caught in the crossfire. So, yeah, I got that prediction wrong because I underestimated just how far both sides would go to save face. This shutdown isn't about budgets anymore. It's about egos, political theater, and Trump trying to prove he can outlast everyone. Meanwhile, the bill for this show is climbing by the day. Whether you take the cautious estimate of $7 billion or the aggressive one of $75 billion, the damage is undeniable, and the trust Americans once had in their government's ability to function is wearing dangerously thin. Who should finally give in? Okay, well, that was pretty detailed. And yeah, those numbers are absolutely crazy. But I've got one more follow-up. Last time ChatGPT said most of the blame for the shutdown falls on Republicans. But what about now? After another 2 weeks, who does ChatGPT think should finally give in? Democrats or Republicans? And here's the answer. Honestly, the GOP should give in. And I'll tell you why. The shutdown started because Trump and House Republicans decided to hold the entire federal government hostage over budget fights they couldn't win through normal negotiation. That's not fiscal responsibility, that's political extortion. When your leverage point is hundreds of thousands of unpaid workers and billions in lost output, you've already lost the moral argument. Democrats have dug in too. But there's a big difference between holding your ground and being the one who pulled the trigger. They've offered short-term continuing resolutions to get the government reopened and then negotiate later. But both sides ended up rejecting each other's versions. That back and forth my way or nothing mentality is what's keeping America frozen. The government's not shut down because Democrats want to spend recklessly. It's shut down because Trump wants a symbolic win. Something to show his base that he's fighting the swamp. It's all optics. If Democrats cave now, they set a dangerous precedent that any president or party can shut the government down to force unrelated policy changes. That's not how a democracy is supposed to work. The budget process isn't supposed to be a hostage negotiation. If Trump wants his spending cuts or immigration measures, fine. Push them through Congress. Make your case. Build the votes. Don't paralyze the entire system to get your way. Republicans are gambling that public anger will eventually shift toward Democrats, but that's short-sighted. The longer this goes on, the more Americans see who actually controls the shutdown. It's the GOP full stop. They started it. They're sustaining it. And they're the ones who can end it right now by agreeing to reopen the government and negotiate policy separately. So, yeah, if anyone should blink first, it's them. Music. All right, got it. I think that most of us are on the same page with that one. But if you're not, be sure to let me know in the comments who you believe should give in, the Democrats or the Republicans. All right, up next, I'm going to ask it to predict the exact date the government shutdown finally ends. But before we get into that, now's the perfect time to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It only takes a couple of seconds, but it really helps the channel to grow. And by the way, I've got a quick question for you about ChatGPT's interface. I've seen a few people say that the white background with black text is kind of hard on the eyes, and that switching to dark mode would be way better. So, the question is, which do you prefer? Should I keep it on light mode or should I switch to dark? Be sure to let me know because I'm always trying to make these videos better and more enjoyable for all of you. So, let me know what you think down in the comments below. All right, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the prediction. AI predicts when the shutdown ends. I'm going to ask for a new and updated prediction on when it all ends. And ChatGPT, this time, you better be accurate. All right, here's my honest take. I think the shutdown ends somewhere between November 10th and 14th. We've hit the political breaking point. 35 days is already record long, and now it's bleeding into the kind of areas no politician can ignore. Airports, veterans programs, food aid, and basic services that affect everyday Americans. Federal workers are furious. Business groups are calling their representatives nonstop, and polls clearly show most Americans blaming Republicans and Trump for the chaos. Even big conservative donors are putting pressure on GOP leadership to wrap it up because the shutdown is starting to hurt markets and confidence. Behind closed doors, a few key Republican senators, Thune Tillis, even Graham, are signaling they've had enough. That's the moment things usually shift. When senators start worrying more about re-election than about proving loyalty to Trump, the logjam starts cracking. Trump's team knows it too. Publicly, he's still playing the tough guy role, but behind the scenes, he's boxed in. Every additional day makes his administration look less like it's enforcing discipline and more like it's lost control, and Trump hates that image more than anything. So my guess is sometime around mid-November, maybe November 12th or 13th, they'll figure out a face-saving deal, declare it a win, and finally reopen the government. If it goes beyond that, then we're in real trouble. Not just politically, but institutionally, public trust would tank, morale across the government would collapse, and the global image of U.S. stability would take another hit. But I don't think it gets that far. My gut says it ends within that November 10th to 14th window, not because anyone suddenly acts responsibly, but because both sides are finally realizing this shutdown is turning into political self-destruction. And there you have it. ChatGPT's gut says the shutdown ends by November 14th or it's getting fired. All right, I'm kidding. Now let me know in the comments what you think about that prediction, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the thanks button under the video if you want to support the channel directly. After that, go check out this episode where I asked AI who might be in the Epstein files. It gives its take on Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, and more. And that one was really interesting, so be sure to check it out. All right, thanks for watching. Click on that video right there, and I'll see you over there in just a moment.